I think what I'm most proud of is empowering people to take control of their own life, because so many people are looking outside themselves, and their solution is within them. That's why they're unhappy or not satisfied, because they know there's something better. That something better is them. They just haven't let it shine.
The most important exchange or relationship is the one with yourself.
Right.
What are you doing to create that relationship yourself? And I'm like, I got my metaverse right here. This is what I need to be using now in order to truly help heal myself, to truly be balanced and be able to respond to all the challenges and the things that life is going to give me, because it's going to happen. So what are you doing to actually strengthen yourself? That's what I believe the BrainTap is doing for me.
Well, what happened was we started to learn more about how epigenetics works. And we know that our thinking, actually our body is always changing. 99% of our body changes every 40 seconds or within 40 seconds. So we know that through epigenetics. So with words, we change 2,300 gene expressions, either positively or negatively. So we're going to use positive psychology to get people to think differently.
Hi, I'm Dr. Fab Mancini, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about the greatest technology of brain health, BrainTap, and its founder, Patrick Porter. Hey, Patrick, it's so great to see you.
It's great to be here, Fab. Thanks for having me.
Well, this technology of BrainTap, I'm telling you, I become addicted to it because, for so many years, I've been a healthcare provider for over 35 years, and we've been talking about the importance of good nutrition, right? I mean, almost everybody out there now understands that we got to feed the body the right things in order for the body to function and be healthy. And then, of course, we got about fitness, and we talk about the importance of exercise and movement. And we tell people to go work out and go to the gym and take a walk, etc. But today's science, and you've seen it almost in every cover of every major magazine, not only in science, but regular magazines, the brain and brain health is really the key to health. So tell me a little bit about how you began to understand this concept so many years ago that led you to understand that if you could influence the brain, especially now the science is talking about a new term called neuroplasticity, which tells us that the brain is always adapting and changing to its environment. So tell me, how was it that you were able to recognize that in the early days, and what led us to this amazing technology called BrainTap?
Right. Well, I learned technology-driven meditation through something called GSR devices. And so we were listening to devices. We didn't know exactly what the brain was doing. This is pre-neurofeedback. But if we fast forward, even as early as 20 years ago, they didn't think the brain would change. Now we have sophisticated tools with EEG where we can measure brain speed, energy in the brain. And now we're noticing that certain frequencies of light, sound, and vibration actually can increase this energy so that people have the energy they need. And we can actually see brain fitness happening before our very eyes.
Well, what I love about it, and you use the word brain fitness, which I love, because in reality, we tell people to exercise their muscles. But let me tell you, when you exercise your brain, there's nothing like it, because the brain controls every single cell, every single system of the body. So, Patrick, help me understand, as you started putting all of this science together many years ago, it's been almost your life work, almost 40 years of work. Tell me a little bit about, so I can understand, what was the science that you started putting together that now has become BrainTap?
Well, I think the main science was that these brain waves, not one brain wave is super important. Like a lot of people say, I meditate so I can get more alpha. Well, if you get too much alpha, you become like a daydreamer. The old saying, you're so heavenly proud, you're no earthly good. This comes into your mind. We need to have a balance of brain waves. So what we've learned is that there's a symphony of brain waves we need. Every brain wave is important. You show me somebody with an issue, and I can almost 100% every time tell you what brainwave they're missing, because they're all important for different activities. So think about it like our muscles. We have muscles that help us lift things, muscles we can reach and grab things. The brain is the same way, but it uses frequencies, these brain frequencies, and they've assigned them different names like alpha, beta, delta, gamma, these types of things.
Well, it's interesting because as I was becoming a doctor of chiropractic, the reason that I became a chiropractor is because I learned that the nervous system, which is primarily the brain, controls and regulates all other systems. And I wanted to be in prevention. I wanted to actually help the body or impact the body in a way. And then through chiropractic adjustments, I've been able to do that over the last 30 plus years. Now, for you, you've been able to give people the opportunity to be able to impact their brain, right? We call it brain wellness. We call it brain fitness. We call it brain health. Whatever you want to call it, we know that the brain today is the most important organ of the body. And now the challenge is that most people don't know how it works. So give me a little bit of an understanding of how the brain actually is what's maybe deciding how much pain I currently have, or maybe the lack of sleep that I'm currently having, or maybe the anxiety that I'm feeling, but I don't understand where it's coming from, or maybe the fact that I can't seem to be getting depressed. I can't seem to stop getting depressed, but I can't control it. Tell me a little bit about how you see the brain functioning that.
Right. So our brain, we now know that there's a direct correlation between brain waves and neurotransmitter activity. So the brain is instructing our gut to make these 54 different neurotransmitters we need. So if somebody is not sleeping, for instance, I'm going to tell you that I could predict with certainty that they're missing theta. And the reason they're missing, why that is because theta produces GABA. GABA is a precursor to DMT, which helps us to dream, which helps us to put us into delta. Now, that's one. Now, when somebody's in pain, what we typically see is a high amount of beta activity on one end of the spectrum and a high amount of delta activity on the other. And what's happening is that shows us there's a lot of inflammation in the brain, maybe some brain trauma, but we only experience pain in the beta brainwave. So when somebody has an extraordinary amount of beta, we should have only about 45% beta when we're awake and 30% alpha. If we don't have enough alpha, then that's when we can start to feel depressed and anxious, because alpha is let's say a modulator that modulates all those, like the dopamine responses we have, the drivers, basically the serotonin, the kind of neurotransmitters that engage and make us active. And if we get too many of those, the body doesn't like it, just like everything else, everything in balance. And so when we see this now, the other side benefit we're seeing, like with labs like MIT, they're showing that the gamma brainwave is really important for Alzheimer's and dementia. And think of that like the bass drum of the band. If you don't have any gamma or very little gamma activity, then that's going to dysregulate the whole brain. Now, even more important than brainwave frequencies we're finding with brain health is brainwave symmetry, which means the two hemispheres are communicating. The hippocampus is totally responsible for taking our long-term and short-term memories so that we can transact them in real time. If we don't have the brainwave activity, let's say we don't have a lot of alpha theta, we have a high beta and high delta I was talking about, we get foggy brain, we lose our memory, we start having those dementia kind of experiences, because one is delta's trying to put us to sleep. So our brain's saying, shut down, reboot, let's get this thing fixed. And beta saying, go, go, go. And what usually happens, unfortunately, especially in America, is we go after coffee, tea, and chocolates or foods, and we stimulate biologically. So what we also find in nutrition and supplementation, which you mentioned at the very beginning of the interview, is that if you are in a high sympathetic state, which most chiropractors, those are their terms, right? So when you're in that high sympathetic state, your digestive system is almost put on hold while you deal with the stress. Now, if you're constantly under low-level chronic stress, then you never get a chance to down-regulate, and that's turning on our parasympathetic system. So if we can turn on the parasympathetic system, there's a reason we pray before food. Obviously, we're honoring the creator, but also we're getting our body ready to ingest that food. In ancient times, we knew that we needed to calm down and relax. And I think the biggest problem people have with their brains today is they don't take enough time to down-regulate.
What I love about what you said is this. Number one, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's the fact that scientists over the years have discovered that the brain has a roadmap that we call brain waves. And these brain waves, whether they are gamma, alpha, beta, theta, delta, these are the brain waves that now allows us to understand what activity is really happening in the brain whenever we're functioning in real life, whether it's sleeping, stressing, whatever it is. So one of the things that I love about that is the fact that now you've taken all of that research, and in this thing we call BrainTap, you have created downloads, which are amazing, over 1,200 programs that people can do sessions of 15 to 20 minutes, and they can actually counteract or be able to create the proper support to the wavelengths that the brain needs to be able to function. Now, to me, the reason that that's so powerful is this, Patrick, because as a chiropractor, I know that when I give an adjustment, the body is impacted on the nervous system, and that helps support the body. But that is not as specific as what you just said, in which now we understand through science that we can actually correct or balance whatever wavelength the body is not properly working or is not working properly in the body through these sessions, so the body can now be able to sleep better, or the body can relax, or the body can get out of depression, or the body can actually be more positive instead of being negative. Because, the pandemic has created a tremendous disruption. And we know that a lot of people out there are struggling. But I also know that you can exercise all you want to, which you're going to get great benefits. And I know that you can take all the supplementations you want to, which is going to have great benefits. But I've never seen anything so powerful as the BrainTap when it comes down to specifically addressing something with some of the programs that you have created. So help me understand, when you were noticing that now we have these wavelengths and now we know how to properly balance them, how is it that you started putting together these programs that now people have access to it whenever they use BrainTap?
Well, what happened was we started to learn more about how epigenetics works. And we know that our thinking, actually our body is always changing. 99% of our body changes every 40 seconds or within 40 seconds. So we know that through epigenetics. So with words, we change 2,300 gene expressions, either positively or negatively. So we're going to use positive psychology to get people to think differently. I always tell people, your best thinking brought you here. Let's upgrade that thinking. And the nice thing about BrainTap is we don't teach you what to think. We teach you how to think about things, because the word educate means to draw out of people, not to pour into people. Some people don't understand that. And we know what to do. I mean, if there was no stress on the table and we were just living our life like Gilligan's Island or something, we would make good food choices. We would do what we need to do. We'd treat people respectfully. But when stress is introduced to the equation, the brain gets out of balance, and then we start accessing, let's say, inappropriate zones of the brain. And we want to put the brain into all of this activity you're talking about with the BrainTap, with light, sound, and vibration. We're exercising the brain, and we're giving new neural pathways to alternates or available choices, I would say, because choice is better than no choice. And there's a saying in NLP that the part that is the most flexible controls the system. So you want to be the most flexible part so you can control the system. If you're not flexible, if you're rigid and strict, that becomes very stressful. And that's a high beta state that creates more pain and discomfort and stress.
Well, what I love about what you're saying is that you're empowering me to take control of my life and not be a victim of the circumstances of my life. And I think that's what BrainTap does extremely well. The second thing that I think is very important to understand, Patrick, is the fact that you have evaluated all of these conditions and you have all this great programming, and you use different technology. And you mentioned sound as one technology, but you also have lights that you also included as a technology. So tell me how the frequency of not only voice, but also the music. I mean, you have some of the best music I've ever seen in any program I've ever done, but you also included something that I'm very familiar with, but most people may not be, and that is the power of healing when it comes to light. So tell me a little bit about how is it that all this technology came together, and why is it that you feel that there's never been anything remotely to impact the health of the brain, such as BrainTap?
Right. Well, I think all the sciences have been proven out separately. What we did, the genius that myself and my team did, is we put together it all in one place. So you don't have to have 6 different devices driving all this information. So what we did was we looked at ancient traditions and how did they help their people. As an example, Kronos therapy in India is talked about in the Vedas, where if somebody had a mental disorder, they had to sit outside between 3:30 and 5:30 in the morning because there's more infrared hitting the planet at that time than any other time. So when you look at the ancient people and what they did without drugs, without medicine, without cutting into people, they were able to get this resolution, and it had a lot to do with just getting the brain back balanced. If you can imagine, they were suffering from PTSD a lot, because every day they were life or death. And nowadays we have stress levels, but we don't have the same. So I think that the main thing is that we looked at what the science was all about. Another example, when people say, why do we have light flashing, what they call retinal flashing? There's a lot of research out there about retinal flashing, overcoming depression, anxiety, and stress. But what we looked at was a candle. People would meditate to a candle. They call this the Jyoti meditation. And what happens when you look at it, that candle is flickering at 10 hertz frequency. So the brain, we now know through science that the brain matches the frequency of what you're looking at. So basically, that's how we interpret it, because our brain interprets light, sound, and vibration. So by mirroring that 10 hertz frequency, we go into a meditative state. And then when you add the physiological effect of breathing with it, you get even deeper states of consciousness and resolution because people are stuck. Think of it like their nervous system stuck in this perpetual pattern of stress and disorder, and we have to interrupt that pattern. That's exactly what a chiropractic adjustment does. That's why we work so well with chiropractors, is they can interrupt the pattern, we can introduce a new pattern, and then we keep educating the nervous system to keep that new pattern alive.
Well, and I'm also thinking of all the individuals out there that have not been able to travel and maybe attend some of the retreats that they're used to attending, how they now have the ability to just put the headset on and put, the visual component of it, which I love so much with the lights. And now you have the ability to do a session and really start nurturing your brain, so your brain can actually re-change. That's what neuroplasticity is. It's the fact that your brain is constantly evolving. There was a time that we didn't think that there was a lot of changes in the brain, that it will just die off. And it has actually turned out to be totally the opposite. Is that the brain is constantly, like Patrick mentioned, rapidly changing based on our environment, which we call epigenetics. And because of that, what you are today, how you feel today, is all directly proportional to that environment. So what is it that you can do to change that environment, give you the empowerment that you need, and help you feel better? But there's something else, Patrick, that I was thinking. So recently in the news, we had Facebook and Zuckerberg talking about metaverse, and and I was listening to, why is it that he wants to change the name of the company, and why is it that he wants to introduce this technology? And he says something very interesting. He says, well, what we realize is that we want to change the way people relate to other people, right? We want to create experiences for people, so that way when they're on the phone or they're having a meeting, they can feel that they're actually there. But then I started thinking about my BrainTap that I use every single day. The most important exchange or relationship is the one with yourself.
Right.
What are you doing to create that relationship yourself? And I'm like, I got my metaverse right here. This is what I need to be using now in order to truly help heal myself, to truly be balanced and be able to respond to all the challenges and the things that life is going to give me, because it's going to happen. So what are you doing to actually strengthen yourself? That's what I believe the BrainTap is doing for me, my family. I told you, I bought one for everyone for Christmas, because I realized there's not a better gift that I can give anyone this Christmas. And that's why everybody's getting a BrainTap. But tell me a little bit about that, Patrick, because you've been in this space for a lot longer than me, and you come from the science. You're a Ph.D. You come from the science, a researcher behind of this. What do you think that this is truly impacting people? And what is it that you're the most proud that you bring into people whenever they use a session with BrainTap?
Okay, so I'll answer the last one first. I think what I'm most proud of is empowering people to take control of their own life, because so many people are looking outside themselves, and their solution is within them. That's why they're unhappy or not satisfied, because they know there's something better. That something better is them. They just haven't let it shine. So if we can turn on and we live in an energy economy. So I think the number one thing that I really look forward to when people use the BrainTap is improving their energy or down-regulating their energy, because we take people from, let's say you wake up in the morning, you're not really feeling right. We have digital coffee in the morning. You put that on, you wake your brain up naturally now, just the way we used to do in ancient times. When the sun would come up, the earth would be warm, our brain would start to get excited, and then we would go out and do our hunt or gather or whatever we're doing. In the middle of the day, when we used to take naps in the Serengeti, because these bodies are 200,000 years old genetically, we now need that time to reboot our brain, because we're cyclic in nature. We're designed to be outside while it's sunlight, not sit in our houses or our cars. So we need that light exposure, and the brain is really what needs that light exposure. So we're giving that light delivery through the eyes and the ears. And then at night, if you're so geared up, because maybe you're having a good time, maybe you're not, but whatever it is, some things might disrupt your sleep. It's all in training the brain to go through those transitions. So I think now, we started out just doing pain control. That's why we invented this technology in the very first place in the 80s, because we couldn't get people to use, there was no neurofeedback then. So people are going, why didn't they just use This was biofeedback. So we're looking at skin temperature, respiration, heart rate. And when you're in pain, you can't do any of that. So we needed a way that it could be done for them, or what I like to say, with them, because you're really learning to do it for yourself. And then you'll find that you just have the skill set that you need.
Well, what I love about it is the fact that you have so many programs that people can download. And that's one of the things that I want to end this interview with. You've created one of the most amazing apps I've ever seen. The application for BrainTap is one that is so simple. You download it in your phone primarily. Now, all of a sudden, it pairs with your goggles, right? So whenever I'm going to use it, it automatically pairs. And what I was very excited about is the fact that you have over 1,200 different things that I can use in there. You also have some that don't have to be so specific. That means that if you just want to do brain health for yourself, you have many of those. But tell me a little bit about the idea behind the app, and why is it that the app is really the differentiator, in your opinion, that sets us apart from anything else out there?
Right. I think the main reason it sets us apart is that we understand neuroplasticity. It's not one session and done. Even if you like that session, I would encourage people to change it up and listen to something different, because it's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym and do the same exercises week in and week out, pretty soon you're not going to get those gains you want. So the brain we learn in a stress environment. Of course, people like what they're used to in their comfort zone, but I love that image where it shows the picture of your successes outside of your comfort zone. So we need to move people outside that comfort zone on a daily basis, so they have behavioral flexibility. And I think that's the key here, is to train the brain to have that flexibility and move through. And now the other thing is that if you try to, there's an old saying, how many bites does it take to eat an elephant? Or do you eat it in one bite, or do you cut it into little pieces? I found that most people need it dripped. Not a fire hose, So like, just use an example, and most people have stopped smoking now, but when I started this business, 56% of America smoked. Now it's down to 19%. It wasn't my fault, but I helped as much as I could, but I think everybody should stop smoking, right? It's not healthy. But you can't not everyone's going to be one and done. So we have 13 different sessions they listen to. The first 3 are just to get their mindset ready to get rid of their cigarettes, because this is a buddy they have. So every series is different. Every series takes them through. If those that are interested or have learned NLP, which is my background is not only psychology, but also I trained with Richard Bandler, John Grinder, and all of his brothers. I actually made a list one time, 57 different instructors over the years, and I still learn. I go to events now. A lot of them are chiropractic events where you learn about neurophysiology, but the process is it's about learning and developing skill sets, like, and also in NLP, they didn't teach, you could do training with people. Like my dissertation was non-contextual therapy. I worked with 60 people. I didn't know what their problems were. I gave them all these techniques. They're all the ones that are in the thing. And those 60 people all got results. And I never knew what I was working on, because I don't need to know that anymore. Psychology has changed. We don't need talk therapy anymore. We need the brain to take action and give us pathways to change and test. And if it works, great, keep using it. If it doesn't, don't. We're going to give you space in your there's a saying, your success is only 6 inches away, and that just happens to be the space between your ears. So we need to change that space, and it's not a one and done. If it was a one and done, there was a big movement in therapy a while ago saying, just do a 4-hour session with people. They get these breakthrough sessions and then they're changed. And I always asked my buddies that were doing that, I said, hey, have you ever done any follow-up? Because I don't think that's possible, because the nervous system changes every 72 hours, or it's shifting, I should say, all the time. It's always adapting. So we have to continue to interrupt with something positive. That's why doing those healthy things, eating healthy foods, taking healthy supplements, doing some brain fitness, going for walks, doing those things, that's all really training and conditioning your nervous system for the best life now.
Well, every time that I put mine on, I always think about the fact that I learned in school that over 95% of your brain function is subconscious. Only 5% or so is conscious. That means that most of the stuff that I do or think about is not even something that I remember. What I do know today in the science is the fact that by putting positive information, right? Because many people have done affirmations, and research has shown that you can actually replace and change the pathways that the brain has created from the past into new ones to help you develop a different outcome. So if you saw yourself with a low self-esteem, great. Now you're going to put some stuff in there that is going to help you improve your self-esteem. Patrick, I love the ones, and many of my friends that are doing the ones about managing your weight. There's so many people struggling with their weight issues. And we know that that's mostly a subconscious issue, right? We know that you can change your diet, but it doesn't last because somehow your subconscious will sabotage it. But now when they do these sessions, they find themselves craving the right things without any effort, because it was all in the back of the brain. It was in the subconscious mind. So what I love is the fact that the app has so many different options for people, whether you need energy in the morning to get going instead of that cup of coffee, whether you need to be able to relax your brain so you can go to sleep deeper, whether you need something in between the day to help you deal with the stresses of life, whether you need to attract more money in your life because somehow you're struggling financially. You put in there almost everything that anyone can possibly going through. But what I love is the fact that you're constantly changing it. You're constantly improving it. You're constantly making it better. As a subscriber of the app, I have access to all of that information.
Yeah. When somebody's in, they get all the updates. Like we just updated a whole series on breath work. So now that's in the power user access. So people get access to these. And we just uploaded another person, Kathy Height, who runs leadership training at Life University. She had 9 different meditations. We encoded them to be used so that new graduates of Life will now be able to use BrainTap and get ready for their exams or whatever. Because when you're more relaxed, you just function better. That's the key here.
Well, I just want to take a moment to just say thank you. I know you spent over 40 years developing this. I know that people are just becoming more aware of BrainTap. Some of my most influential doctor friends and the people that influence the world when it comes to their health, they're big fans, as you know, of BrainTap, like I am. And I can tell you that not only what it's done for me, and I've been a user for almost 2 months now, and it's addictive because I feel the difference. I feel the difference every single day. And what I love about it is that I can do a session that really is for my overall well-being, but also I can be very specific as to what I'm trying to accomplish. And that range, that flexibility is really what neuroplasticity is all about. It's giving the individual brain the ability to have what it needs to shape itself to where it needs to be to function the best that it can. And that's one of the things that I truly believe that BrainTap is doing, not only for me, but for the thousands of users out there. So in closing, Patrick, if there's one thing you want to leave us with that you want us to think about whenever we associate our brain health and BrainTap, what would it be?
Well, I think just to know that you can change your brain at any age, that we found the science is there to support it. If we can properly stimulate the brain, It will go back, just like chiropractic. We know the innate intelligence of the body is going to go to work, getting those neurochannels set back up and getting you back to your best and brightest self.
That's beautiful. Well, for those of you that are listening, I hope that this information is valuable to you. My suggestion to you is you got to get one of these as quickly as possible, and please gift them to your loved ones. You should see how my family got so excited. The ones that are going to get it this Christmas, they're going to be even more excited. But I want you to really trust me when I say, get it right now. Get it, experience it for yourself. And then I promise you that you're going to call me or text me or message me and thank me for it, because the benefits are too much to mention in this brief interview. So thank you, Patrick, for all the work that you have done. Thank you to BrainTap and your team. That is just an amazing team. And for you, those that are listening, thank you for taking the time to go through this whole video and recognizing that now your brain health can be at the best it's ever been due to the benefits of BrainTap. Get it now, and I promise you, you'll be glad you did. God bless.